Okay, welcome to another English language A-level video with me, Paul Heselton, subject leader for English here at the QE in Darlington. And this one is about one of my favourite bits of the course, the language investigation. Okay, so let's start off with an overview of where this fits into the whole course. So if you're in my class now, I would be getting you to fill in these boxes here to try and remember what are the different assessment points for English. So what do we do in paper 1 in the exam? What do we do in paper 2? And what are these two mysterious NEAs, these non-exam assessments? Okay, so if I were you, I would pause the video there and I'd try and fill in those blanks. Right, and so here are the answers. So paper 1, remember, is called Language, the Individual and Society. It's a 2.5-hour paper. It's split into two parts. Your first section is called Meanings and Representations. That's where you get a current day text and an older text. You analyse them and then you compare them. Your section B is your CLUD. So that's the children's language development. It's an either-or question. You get some data with it, and you either do the speech one or the literacy one. So that's 40% of the course, and that's basically everything that we've done in the second year so far. In your English paper 2, which is also 2.5 hours, it's called Diversity and Change. Section A is a good old-fashioned essay question that you do on some aspect of either diversity or change. You don't have data for that. And in your section B, you're doing these discourses. So you get two lengthy pieces of journalism. You get to analyse and compare the language, and then you get to create your own piece of journalism, an opinion article. So that's 80% in total of the qualification just on those two papers. Now, what about these NEAs? Well, you've done all that work on your original writing, because in the first year you did your narrative fiction. So you did some short story writing, and you wrote a commentary that went with your piece. And then secondly, during the lockdown, you did a persuasive text. So you wrote an opinion article and you also submitted a commentary on that. So one of those is chosen and goes through as your piece of original writing. Now what we're interested in is this one. This is the language investigation. So this is, in summary, an extended analysis of students' chosen linguistic data. And it's half of the NEA, so it's 10% of the course. Before we get stuck into the detail on this, let's just give you a bit of a warning shot here. So what I've done here is I've taken the stats from 2018, the national picture on how English language AQA students across the country did compared with other subjects. So here we've got English language. There was an entry of 10,500. And of that, 1.6% got A stars, and 11.1% got A stars or A's, and 38.8% got a top grade, i.e. an A star, A, or a B. Right, now compare that with history. So history has an entry of basically twice as much as English language. Look at these percentage figures. So 5.4% of the history A-level students studying AQA got an A star, so that's kind of like 3 times the amount of English language. 24.1% of history students got an A or an A star, so that's kind of like 2.5 times English language. And in terms of the top grade, 52.5% were awarded an A or an A star or a B in history, compared with the English language 38.8%. Okay, so the bottom line on this is the powers that be do not like to award to English language students very high top grades. So you're going to have to work incredibly hard in order to achieve a high grade in English language. Okay, and one way of doing this is, of course, scoring the highest possible mark that you can in your two NEA pieces. It's a really important way of bolstering your mark, and it's something that you've got complete control over. Unlike an exam where they can throw you anything, with this, you are completely in control of the operation. Okay, so you're going to enjoy it, you're going to work hard on it, and it's going to make a big difference to your end grade. Right, let's get an overview on this. So we know that language investigation is 10% of the A level. It is marked out of 50 in the same way as your original writing is marked out of 50. We work on it in November and December of the second year, and you finally submit it near the beginning of January. so beginning of term 2. In terms of its length, it should be 2,000 words long, give or take 100 words. This 2,000 words doesn't include things like quotation and your appendix and footnotes. So we give kind of 100 words leeway on that. Each section needs a word count, and you need a cumulative word count as well. 2,000 words probably sounds like a lot of words to you, but actually once you get stuck into it, it's nothing at all, and you will wish that you had more words. In fact, it used to be, in the old days, double that. So students used to have to do 4,000 words. You will do the work on Google Docs, and you will regularly share your work with Mike and I, and we'll try and give you as much guidance and advice as possible. What do you call an alligator in a vest? An investigator. Okay, now your language investigation will be divided into sections. Okay, so it's not just like one continuous essay. And here they are. So you're going to do an introduction. The introduction has got to be only about 200 words. Quite commonly, students try and write introductions which are like 300, 400 words long. And that's a big mistake, because then your words there are eating into the words that you could use in your analysis. So keep it trim and concise. Introduction, 200 words. Then you've got your methodology of 200 words, in which you describe how and why you went about the process of this investigation. And then you've got the main meat in the sandwich. This is the cheese and pickle of the sandwich, because this is your analysis. Your analysis should be 1,400 words-ish. Okay, your analysis will look quite different to analysis that you've been writing hitherto in essays for English. Look at this, for example. So you're going to have all sorts of presentational devices that are going on in your analysis. More of that later. Then you have a conclusion stroke evaluation, which, similar to the introduction, should only be about 200 words. You then have a list of sources. This is kind of like a bibliography of all the sites and articles and books that you've read in the process of doing your language investigation. And then finally of all, you have your appendix. You get your appendix out. So your appendix includes data, it includes your notes that you've made, it even includes discarded sections. Okay, this is the process then. So you're going to choose a linguistic area that's of interest to you. Make sure that this is something that is going to sustain your interest for 2 months. Okay, you're going to go off and collect some data in this area. How much data should you collect? Most students are collecting, if they are transcribing, usually 6 to 10 sides, which may not sound a lot, but takes a lot of time to do. 6 to 10 sides of transcribing would take you a good few hours. So that's a rough approximation of how much that you need. It will depend actually on how many words there are on each side, of course. You're then going to annotate the life out of them. You're going to annotate them, the language features, and you're going to link all of those language features to our meanings and representations. And you're also going to create a question about this topic and this data. Then what you're going to do, or at the same time as doing all of those, you're going to be collecting relevant secondary research. So you're going to be reading around the subject. You're going to be looking on the net. You're going to be looking at our books in the departments. You're going to be reading things like e-magazine articles to give you more of an insight into the topic area that you've chosen. You're then going to draft an introduction that states the kind of whole rationale behind your investigation, i.e. why you chose it, and what are some of the important contextual factors that you think are going to be affecting the language. And then you're going to construct a methodology. The methodology is important. You're going to be picking particular language levels, and then within those language levels, you're going to be asking questions of the data. You're then going to be getting into the analysis, and you're going to do this level by level. Most students apply 3 different levels, so you're going to draft an analysis where you apply your first language level, and then you're going to do other language levels. And then finally, and this might strike you as bizarre, after you've written your levels and done your analysis, only then you're going to write your methodology. And then you're going to round it off with a conclusion and evaluation. So at the end, you're going to be finalising your list of sources and your appendix, and you're going to make it look really nice with an attractive front cover. In terms of the assessment, as I said, is out of 50. It's a mixture of AO1, AO2, and AO3. On the AO1, it's all about using suitable methodology. So your methodology is a really important element in this. It's about you using appropriate linguistic terms, and it's also about you guiding the reader with your accurate and coherent expression. So that's, yes, it is SPUG, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, but it's also about your ability, for example, to use well-shaped paragraphs that begin with topic sentences. So that's AO1, that's 15 out of the 50 marks. Your AO2 is about concepts and issues. So this is where you're drawing upon the sort of theories and concepts that you've learned so far on the course. And of course, everybody's investigation will be drawing upon different concepts and issues. And then your AO3 is your good old context, contextual terms like audience and purpose and mode, but it's also about meanings and representations as well. Okay, and that's the 20 marks out of the 50. Okay, so if you were in my class now, I would be throwing out to you a whole load of previous language investigations. You would be on page 5 in your booklet, and you would be doing a breakdown of what you're reading in front of you. So you'd be thinking about, well, what is this area of analysis that the student has chosen, and what exactly is the question? You'd be reading the introduction, and you'd be thinking, well, what does the student find interesting about this topic area? You'd be reading the methodology, and you'd be making notes on how did the student select, collect, and analyse the data. Remember those 3 verbs: select, collect, and analyse the data. Then you get stuck into the analysis. So what were the specific areas that were analysed? You'd be looking at the different presentational devices, i.e. the layout features that are being used. You'd be reading the footnotes as well, looking to see how the student has used footnotes in their investigation. And most importantly, what is the student discovering here? Then I'd be getting you to be reading the conclusion and the evaluation. So what are the main findings of the investigation? What sources are there? So what research did the student carry out? And what's going on in the appendix? So how is the data presented? And was there anything else in there in the appendix? So that's what you'd be doing, because by doing that, you're really getting an overview of what your end product is going to be looking like in 2 months' time. So we have to think about you choosing your topic area, your data, and your question. You need to make sure that your data is really interesting, that it's going to engage you, not just a sort of passing fancy that takes your interest for a couple of days and then you're going to get bored with. It needs to be something that is genuinely engaging. It might be an idea to link your topic with your undergraduate subject aspiration, like if you've chosen a particular university course that you want to get onto. So it may link into that. It may even link into your future career plans. So, for example, if you were thinking, I really want to be a speech therapist, it would make total sense for you to be doing your language investigation where you're looking at the phonology of speech therapist clients. I'm mentioning that because a student has done that before. That was from 3 years ago. She went on to do a speech therapy course at university and probably, as I speak, is now working as a speech therapist. So the point is linking your topic with something that you have a genuine interest with. You've got to make sure that you can collect your data fairly quickly. Sometimes people have absolutely brilliant ideas, but the data, they can't get hold of the data quickly enough, in which case it's no good. So you need to be able to get hold of your data fairly quickly, by which I mean within a week or so. Okay, so always refer to previous language investigations. We've got absolutely boxes full of these things. So have a look through them for ideas and note the way that students have worded their questions. The thing about your language investigation is it needs to be a process of discovery. You do need to be genuinely seeking to find something out, not just proving something that was pretty obvious to start with. Okay, so discovery is the key word. I would always try and incorporate some elements of comparison in your question, okay? And make sure that you are comparing like with like. Don't, for example, think, oh, it'd be a good idea to compare a written mode text with a transcript, for example. That won't really work because modally they're so different. Inevitably, the language features between them are so different, and therefore it doesn't make much sense to make a comparison. So always try and compare like for like. Get advice from us. We've been doing these for many years, and we know a thing or two about the feasibility of ideas. Sometimes we'll be quite direct and just say, no, that's not going to work. So we're not being rude. We just don't want you to waste your time. So the key thing is be flexible with your ideas at the start, and remember that your initial idea that you might think is an absolutely brilliant idea, we might think, no, that's just not going to work out at all. Okay, so we're going to leave it there as an introduction to the language investigation. And in the next one, we're going to be looking at other areas. We're going to be looking at possible data examples, and we're going to be thinking about the different modes that you might choose on your investigation, i.e. is it going to be written or spoken or some kind of blended mode text. So I hope that's been a